We now return to Let's Quickly Play Dwarf Quest. On to the next floor. Screams echo in the distance. So the exit is right there near the entrance, and on this floor we have to go the whole way around and then come back. Using my sit and wait tactic there. Now, even though the game is really short, I do have to give the developers credit for actually creating more than one environment. Obviously, we had the walls and dungeon motif in the last couple levels, and now we're sort of in a cavern area. But with as short as the game is, they really didn't have to do that. It would have saved them a lot of time and resources just to have the same one area. But I applaud them for going that extra little bit and creating a unique setting. And I just stuck up on the stone skin there because really, when it comes down to it, at least at this point in the game, I'm thinking that that's the only thing that matters, just being able to defend myself. Durgan! And Durgan gives us a second axe. So, at this point in the game, we now have a choice of going dual-wielding axes or an axe and a shield. And I find that the Minotaur here sort of warrants both. I mean, I want to use the shield because he's very hard-hitting and I don't really know how to fight him. But I figured that using the dual-wielding axes would help out more because they would do more damage, and I really want to get him down as quickly as I can. So, unsure of what to do here, I just go for the defense because I'm not sure how hard he hits. But my card helps out a little bit there, but then I realize I'm not going to last very long. So I use a battle cry, and I use it wrong. I use it poorly. I don't really realize until later that it's better, because I'm thinking that, you know, it uses up an action point when you take a card. And so I really should be taking an action to get rid of the shield and then turn around and use that battle cry. Instead, I end up sort of wasting the battle cry to get rid of the shield, and it doesn't do as much damage as it could have. Now this part here is sort of a puzzly area, except that there's really no puzzle. You just end up hitting these switches and turning around the pathways. But it's really not too difficult to figure out. You just end up hitting them a couple times and everything falls into place. And then you just keep following the path. So it's not like it's a real puzzle, it's really just sort of an incentive for going deeper through the rooms. And, I don't know, it could have been implemented a little bit better. I mean, this area is sort of a maze. And, so struggling to figure out which way goes which would have added some challenge to the dungeon crawl. But instead you basically just end up hitting the switch once, and it opens up the path you need to go. Make sure not to hit the spikes. And this gold will come in very handy. Definitely worth the little bit of backtracking there. So yeah, I just come back, hit the switch again, and then I move on to the next area. I decided to go with the dual wielding because I think that the worst is behind me, just anticipating that most of the enemies in the dungeon will probably be the lesser ones, and so doing more damage to them is more vital than defending myself. Because if I use my shields correctly, I figure that I won't take that much damage, that I could survive it. I mean, I'm getting potions out the wazoo, so it's not like I'm really hurting for health. And so I employ the wait strategy once again, let them use up their 2 action points to get towards me and try and attack me. But you can see with the dual wielding, I'm very powerful. Able to take down the shield and the creature. And then there's an archer in the room here, which is on the other side of the rat, right in my face. So I have to use some more strategy here and defend myself. But I'm not that I'm not that patient, obviously. So I just run right up to him, and then I realize that no, that's going to get me killed. So I take it a little bit slower. Get the goodies in the barrels. And then there's another Minotaur, and I realize I've got 2 axes out when I probably want my shield, because this guy hits really hard. Unfortunately, he's also got a bit of reach, and the single-handed axe against the Minotaur when he's got a shield just doesn't cut it. It just really doesn't work. And again, I misuse the war cry. It's really much more effective when you take off the shield first. But I'm struggling a little bit here now. I see that I'm not doing too much damage to him, and he keeps taking me down, and even though I've still got a handful of potions and a couple of revivals, I get a little bit worried. So I switch back to the dual wielding and just hope that my cards will help defend me. My goal really is just to take him down quickly before he takes me down, using my potions as a crutch. So I got the key, and this is the time when I try to use my revival. But because it's a battle card, you can only use it when you're actually in combat or in danger. So I have to settle for a potion. And another dwarf, Bolgar. Poor Bolgar. And I'm always a little cautious about which way I go, because I hate the idea of getting to the end of the maze and then realizing that I sort of went the wrong way and left a whole portion unexplored. Definitely want some more stone skins. And I just load up on the good stuff. But now I've come full circle and have to go back once again to find that little bit that I left. And I'm glad I did, because it gave me some other healing stuff. Definitely worth going back for. But now that the switch has been flipped, we have come all the way through the dungeon, and I can now go back down to the next level. And here's where the game really starts showing its difficulty. Because the rats are tougher, and the challenges get to be a little bit more frequent. It's not just a room full of 1 or 2 weak enemies. And I kind of have to waste a lot of time and my action points to defend myself against the archers. But I don't really realize how much damage they do. So even though I've got my stone skin on, which is obviously protecting me from damage, I waste a few action points setting up my defenses, using shields when I didn't need to be. Pick up a revival because I figure that at this point it's going to become very necessary. And I'm not too pleased whatsoever at seeing another Minotaur. The focus card with the +1 to your attack I find is really ineffective against these guys. And unfortunately I have to waste an action point getting close to him because he can attack 2 squares away. So I just go in there swinging, hoping to get him down before he gets me. And that one wasn't so bad. Could have been a lot worse, although I did end up using 2 cards. But then there's another one. And this time I don't have the cards that I want, so I try it and see just what I can do on my own. And then I realize how foolish that is, because you can't go up against a Minotaur and expect too much. So once again, I misuse a war cry. But I got him down pretty well. But I think at this point, I just really wasn't too concerned about it. I was really just trying to get through this as quickly as possible, expecting that I would just have a plethora of cards come my way. And then we run into the Rat King. Stone Skin being an obvious choice here, and I figure that hiding in a corner is probably a better choice. It gives me fewer facings to be attacked from. Unfortunately, they kind of block off the Rat King there, so I'm protected behind a wall of the weak guys who can't actually do too much to me. And I think the computer got a little stuck there. But these ones are obviously tougher than their previous Ratkin. So even though I've still got the stone skin, they do damage to me. And this is when I wish that I could attack diagonally, because he can get in a hit on me, but I couldn't do it to him, and I'm still far enough away that I would have to waste an action to get to him. So I just go in swinging, hoping for the best. But he's got a life-stealing sword, and I didn't realize this. Every time he hits me, he gets healed back up. So now that I don't have any more war cries, I'm kind of screwed here. I can't do enough damage to him to get him down. And I die. So I try it again. Fortunately, all of my cards were restored, so I can just try it again from scratch. And this turns out a little bit badly for me because I wasn't anticipating attacking the Rat King right off the bat. Fortunately, he ends up blocking one of his minions. But it doesn't really help me because I take a lot of damage, so I gotta put on some defense, heal myself full up, and just go at this as best I can. So getting on the other side of the Rat King to sort of block the pathing of the minion there, decide not to use another defensive card or a war cry, and try for the next turn again, not using it as I could have to more effect if I'd just taken down his defenses and then gone in with a war cry. But I realized that two-handed is really the only way to go against this guy, instead of with the shield. It's the only way you're going to do enough damage to him. And you just kind of have to outlast him. This whole fight really is just messy and not very well done, but I finally get him. And I don't have to face his thing. With the powerful swing of your axe, you are able to strike a lethal blow. Rat King falls motionless and lies on the ground. I get to be this year's quest champion, because everyone else died. All that remains is the long way back to the surface, back to your village of Rockholm. So yeah, I could have gone better. As you dust yourself off and let your eyes adjust to the daylight, you step out in the sun, expecting cheering and laughter. You are greeted only by silence and the howl of an icy wind. You notice that everything around you is frozen solid. Rockholm is entombed in a giant block of ice. Gripping your axe and clenching your teeth, you set out to the lair of the only being capable of such a spell, the undead wizard, Azar. So here we are in another environment, which, again, impresses me for the length of the game. Although, really, it's only a reskin and recoloring of the caverns. But these ice minotaur end up being sort of the generic enemy. Well, I can't really say that because there are other enemies, but at least for the first part of this area, you run into these minotaurs. It's also nice that the cards themselves have reset. So I've got a bunch of cards that I didn't have at the end of the Rat King there. But I'm just willing to slow ball the minotaurs here. It would be nice to be able to pick up that sword for sure. Unfortunately. But here I decide to try out the shield, and it doesn't do as much as I would have hoped. So yeah, I think sticking with the dual-wielding axes is the way to go. Even though you take some hits, you can really just heal yourself up and keep going, because there's plenty of that in this game. Finally got the key. Have to backtrack again to pick up that chest. But it's always worth getting the chests, especially since they have healing potions in them. And I'm happy that I have a little bit of money here, because I definitely feel that I need those cards. I've got plenty of stone skin now that I'm feeling a little bit more confident. And I pick up another one right there in the barrel. So I don't feel so threatened by the Minotaur anymore, and then I run into two of them. So I immediately need one of those, heal myself up, and just wait. At least for that first turn, try and get them just in a one-on-one situation. So I'm doing a little bit better against the Ice Minotaur than I was the normal ones. With the stone skin and at least one defense, I'm able to hold off their attacks. But not being terribly patient at this point, because I'm really sick of the damn Minotaurs. I just kind of go in swinging. And that's a misclick right there. I could have finished him off, but instead I went around him. Not happy with that choice. And then the big one. And I'm sort of panicking here, thinking, well, he might be the same as the others, but he looks a little bit different. So I'm trying to figure out what I should be using. And this time I used the war cry appropriately, knocking out his shields and then using it. Definitely makes a difference. And finally another chest, another potion, and this area is clear. So, before going down there, I'm going to end it here, and I will see you in the next part.